You were 8 years old and something broke. Maybe it was a bike chain, maybe it was a zipper on your bag, maybe it was something bigger, something emotional, something you didn't have words for yet. And you looked around for help, and help wasn't there. Not because nobody loved you, but because the house ran on a specific, unspoken operating system, and that operating system was, figure it out. Nobody sat you down and explained this. Nobody handed you a manual. You just absorbed it the way kids absorb everything, by watching what got rewarded and what got ignored. Asking for help got you a look. Maybe not a mean one. Maybe just a tired one. You're fine one. What do you want me to do about it one. And that was enough. Your brain did the math instantly. Needing things is inconvenient. Being capable is safe. So you became capable. Quietly, permanently, and at an age when you probably should have still been allowed to need things. If that's the story your body remembers, even when your mind has moved on, there's a lot of psychology behind why you turned out the way you did, and almost none of it means what you think it means. The thing you developed isn't just independence. Psychologists call it a self-reliant schema, a deep internal blueprint that says the only truly safe person to depend on is yourself. It doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from repeated early experiences where your needs were either dismissed, delayed, or met with subtle signals that needing something was a burden. You didn't decide to become self-reliant, you adapted into it, the way a plant grows toward whatever light is available, not because it chose that direction, but because that's where the warmth was. For you, the warmth was competence. Being the kid who didn't need anything. Being the one nobody had to worry about. And the adults around you mistook that adaptation for maturity, which meant the more you suppressed your needs, the more praise you got for not having any. And here's the part that follows you into adulthood. You still can't ask for help. Not because you don't know how. You've watched other people do it. It looks simple. They say, "I'm struggling with this, can you help?" And the world doesn't end. But when you try to form those same words, something in your chest tightens. It feels dangerous. Not logically dangerous, body dangerous. The kind of danger that doesn't listen to reason because it was installed before reason existed. Your 8-year-old nervous system is still running security, and its protocol is clear. Don't need anyone, because needing someone is how you get let down. So instead, you do everything yourself. You carry things that could be shared. You solve problems that would be easier with 2 people. You wait until you're completely overwhelmed before even considering mentioning it to someone. And by then, it's not a request for help. It's a crisis, which confirms the original belief. See, this is what happens when you let things depend on other people. The cycle is airtight. And the worst part is that from the outside, it looks like strength. People say, "I don't know how you manage everything," and you smile, and the smile means, "I don't know either," but the alternative is unthinkable. Let me describe exactly how this plays out in relationships, because this is where the wiring gets exposed. Someone loves you. They want to help. They offer to carry something, handle something, take something off your plate. And instead of relief, you feel anxiety, because letting them help means letting them into a space where they could fail you, and your brain has a very old, very detailed file on what happens when people fail you. So you say, "No, I've got it." You always say, "No, I've got it." And the person offering slowly stops offering, not because they stopped caring, but because you trained them to believe you don't need anything. And then, one night, it hits you. You're surrounded by people who love you, and you're still completely alone inside the thing you're carrying. And you wonder how that happened. It happened because you built a fortress and called it a personality. There's a term in attachment theory called dismissive avoidant attachment. It describes people who learned early that closeness comes with a cost, so they developed an internal world that runs independently. They're not cold, they're not unfeeling, they're often deeply emotional underneath. but the emotion stays locked inside a system that was built to survive without outside input. If you've ever cried alone and been fine with it, not because you prefer it, but because it never occurred to you that someone else could be part of that moment, that's the architecture talking. It's not preference, it's programming. And here's the flip that might sting. Your self-reliance isn't purely a strength. Part of it is avoidance wearing a very convincing costume. The person who says, "I don't need anyone," and the person who says, "I'm terrified of needing someone," are often the same person. One just sounds braver. But the outcome is identical. You carry everything alone, and the people who want to love you properly can't get close enough to do it. Independence stops being a skill and starts being a wall when the only reason you're independent is because depending on someone once hurt and you never recovered from the lesson. But here's what also needs to be said, clearly, because this part gets lost in the psychology. You survived. Whatever that house was, whatever that childhood demanded, you came out of it functional, capable, and still here. The self-reliance that cost you emotionally also built you practically. You can handle crises that make other people freeze. You can sit in uncertainty without panicking because you've been sitting in uncertainty since you were old enough to pour your own cereal. You can endure things that would break someone who was always held because you were built in an environment where holding wasn't available and you had to become your own infrastructure. That's not nothing. That's a person who built themselves from the inside out with no blueprints. And the world is full of people who function because someone like you is quietly holding things together without being asked. The thing worth learning, the only thing that actually changes the pattern, is that asking for help is not the same thing as being helpless. Your brain conflated those two things when you were 8, and it never updated the file. Needing someone doesn't erase your capability. Letting someone in doesn't make you weak. It makes you something scarier than weak, actually. It makes you visible. And visibility is the thing your nervous system has been protecting you from since before you could name it. You don't have to unlearn your independence. It's real, and it's earned, and it works. You just have to stop letting it be the only door in the building. There are people standing outside who would carry half of this if you'd let them, and letting them wouldn't make you less capable. It would make you the thing you never got to be as a kid. Someone who is both strong and held at the same time. The next time someone offers to help and your automatic response starts forming, "No, I'm fine, I've got it." Try pausing for 1 second before you say it. Ask yourself, am I saying this because I genuinely don't need help, or because needing help still feels like a character flaw I assigned myself at 8 years old? That pause won't fix everything, but it's the first crack in a wall that's been standing for a very long time. And walls that crack are walls that eventually let light in. If this felt like someone just described a childhood you never told anyone about, subscribe. This channel was built for brains that learn to carry everything alone and are just now realizing they don't have to.